Hola a todos! With the new GCSE Spanish specifications, I figure it's a good idea to go through the topics you'll be studying at GCSE. This video will be about the identity and relationships topic at AQA, which Edexcel students will be studying under a slightly different name. But basically, I'm going to be going through some vocabulary and some grammar things relating to family, friends, and relationships. I'm going to try my best to summarize the entire topic in this video. Vamos! So let's start by looking at some family member vocabulary. So I've got a picture of a family here. I could say this is me, so this is the word yo is the word for I or me. I could say this is el padre, the father, el padre. This would be, I could say la esposa, the wife, la esposa de el padre, or del padre it should be, of the father, del padre, and that would be la madre. So I've said the wife of the father is the mother. I could say this is el abuelo, maybe the grandfather, el abuelo, and this would be la abuela. And together they are los abuelos, the grandparents. I could say this is la tía, with the accent on the I. La tía is the aunt, and this could be el tío, again the husband of the aunt, el tío. This could be el niño, so is the word for kid. El hijo is the word for son, or maybe el bebé, if he was a bit younger, it would be the baby. And this could be la niña. You could say la niña or maybe la hermana, the sister, the younger sister, la hermana menor is the word for younger, and then mayor is the word for older. These two could be maybe your cousins, so los primos, the cousins, and they look quite similar, so I could say they're twins. Gemelos is the word for twins, so los gemelos, the twins. This girl here could be your sister, so la hermana. We've got some other vocabulary here as well, so I don't think I've mentioned el marido is the word for husband, and then we've got el esposo and la esposa, the spouse, or like the husband or wife. We've got the word la pareja, which is the couple or the spouse. So either a couple of two or the spouse or the partner. Okay, we could quickly here, while we're here, describe clothing super quickly. So for example, this would be los zapatos, the shoes. I'll write this in pink, so los zapatos. I could say this is una camiseta, sort of a t-shirt, an informal t-shirt is camiseta. This man here is wearing una camisa with the collar there. So una camisa is a sort of formal shirt, and the color here is amarilla, yellow. I could say los pantalones aquí, so los pantalones azules. Okay, we've also got step sort of family vocabulary, for example, stepsisters and stepmothers and stepparents. So I could say, for example, el padrastro is the stepfather. And what I'm doing here, I'm taking el padre, I'm getting rid of the e, and I'm adding in our ending astro for masculine singular, astra for feminine singular, astros for masculine plural, and astras for feminine plural. For example, los hermanos would be the siblings, los hermanastros would be the step siblings. We've got some vocabulary that goes beyond the GCSE specification, so you don't need to know these words, but just super quickly to let you know about them. El suegro would be, for example, the father-in-law, or la suegra, the mother-in-law. El cuñado would be the brother-in-law. El yerno would be the son-in-law. We've got el sobrino is the nephew, and la sobrina and the niece. And el nieto, the grandson, or la nieta, the granddaughter. But these words do not come up in your specification. I forgot to mention earlier, we've got el hombre, which is the man, and la mujer, which does also sometimes mean the wife, but it means the woman. So the man and the woman are these words here. Finally, for this little topic about family, we've got types of family. So you could say una familia monoparental with a single sort of mom or dad, una familia monoparental. We can have una familia sin hijos, a family without children, una familia sin hijos. We can have una familia homoparental, a family with the same sex of parents, una familia homoparental. And the final piece of vocabulary for this family topic, we have the word novio, which is boyfriend, and novia, which is girlfriend. So novio and novia. Okay, let's move on away from this topic here and talk about friends. So un buen amigo es, a good friend is. I can put loads of adjectives after this. So I can say, for example, un buen amigo es amable, is kind. Simpático is the other word you would know as kind, simpático. I could say maybe paciente, patient. I could say inteligente, intelligent. Lots of adjectives we can say after S, and this S comes from the verb ser, to be. So a good friend is. I could say trabajador, hardworking, trabajador. That comes from the verb trabajar, to work. I could also, with a couple more words, describe that, or say that a good friend, for example, helps me. So, un buen amigo es alguien, is someone, alguien que, and I could say, for example, te apoya, so he or she supports you. Te ayuda, he or she helps you. Maybe te acepta, he or she accepts you. I could say maybe te escucha, he or she listens to you or hears you. I could say maybe te da consejos, he or she gives you advice. If I was to say gives me advice, it would become me apoya, me ayuda, etc. I could try and create a bit of a sentence. I could say, for example, tengo seis, which is number 6, tengo seis amigos, y and mi mejor amigo, so we say my best friend, mi mejor amigo or mi mejor amiga, so male friend or female friend. I could say me or siempre, I could say always, siempre. Maybe me hace reír makes me laugh, so siempre me hace reír, with the accent on the I. Okay, let's keep this going. Let's talk about physical descriptions. So physically describing things like hair color, height, and things like that. We've got lots of adjectives again here. So I could say alto, if I switch to blue, is the word for tall, and the opposite of that would be bajo. We've got gordo, the adjective for the word for fat, and the opposite would be delgado. I've got feo, and the opposite of that would be guapo, so ugly and beautiful or handsome. And lastly, I could say viejo, and the opposite of that would be joven, young, so old and young. We can talk about hair. So el pelo is the word for hair. We've got different colors for hair. I could say el pelo rubio, and the adjective goes after the noun. So I could say el pelo rubio, el pelo corto, short, el pelo largo, long. I could say el pelo moreno, brown hair, dark brown hair, like this woman here has got. I could say el pelo rizado is curly, or I could say liso is straight hair. I can talk about eyes. So los ojos are the eyes. Oops, los ojos. Again, colors, I can say azules. So plural colors here. Verdes, plural adjectives that end in es, because our noun is plural, is los ojos. I can talk about other sort of accessories. For example, using the verb llevar, to wear, that key verb there, llevar. I could say gafas, it's glasses. So for example, llevo gafas, I wear glasses. Bigote is the word for mustache. Barba is the word for beard. We're going to use all of these three nouns with the word llevar. You can talk about using the verb tener. So for example, tengo. La piel is the skin. La piel, and the color after that. I could say las frecas. Sorry, las pecas it should be. Freckles, las pecas. I could say un tatuaje, a tattoo. Okay, let's continue. So that was physical descriptions. We're now going to talk about marriage, the topic of marriage. I've got a wedding ring here and a wedding cake. So the marriage, that keyword there is el matrimonio. So literally like the matrimony, the marriage. La boda is the wedding. Those two keywords there. We've got here el anillo. I could say el anillo is the ring. I could say el anillo de compromiso, which is engagement. So the engagement ring, el anillo de compromiso. I could say el pastel, the cake. So el pastel de boda, the wedding cake, so the cake of wedding. We can describe the sort of wedding outfit here. I could say el traje, which is the suit. You might see el traje de novio, sort of the groom's suit. The dress, el vestido, or maybe el vestido de novia, almost the bride's dress. We've seen hombre and mujer earlier, so el hombre is the man and mujer is the woman. We've got el beso, maybe the kiss. El amor is the love. We've got some key verbs here as well. So casarse is reflexively means to get married. Divorciarse is to get a divorce, to get divorced. We can quickly look at the conditional tense and say a sentence like mi pareja, my partner, mi pareja ideal, sería, he or she would be. And here we can use some more adjectives. For example, sería maybe alto or alta, inteligente, etc. So this is the conditional tense, would be. I could create a sentence, for example, en mi opinión, in my opinion, en mi opinión. El matrimonio, so marriage. Maybe es muy importante is very important because I can say porque, dado que o ya que, I'm going to say dado que, which is a way of saying because. Me gustaría, the conditional tense again, I would like to have, me gusta, if I spell that correctly, me gustaría, maybe tener hijos, which is the word for children, so I would like to have children. Okay, let's keep going. So that was the marriage and wedding topic. We've now got, let's do 3 things left: possessive adjectives, family relationships, and reflexive verbs. I'm also going to actually add ser versus estar. I think would be a good idea to cover. Ser versus estar. Let's, however, before that, talk about family relations. So talking about who we get on well with or who we don't get on well with. So the main sentence starter we're going to use here is me llevo. Let's do that in a thinner color. Or thinner pen. Me llevo bien, I get on well with. Me llevo bien con. Or I can say me cae bien, and we don't need the con here, just me cae bien. After this, I can say any family member or any person really. I could say the reason because, so I can use porque, ya que, or dado que, and I can give reasons why. For example, porque me da consejos, he or she gives me advice, as we saw earlier. Maybe porque tenemos, we have mucho en común, we have a lot in common, tenemos mucho en común with the accent on the U. I could say the opposite. I could say maybe if I give a sentence here, no me llevo bien, I don't get on well with, no me llevo bien con mi hermano menor. What was mi hermano? What is that word? Menor, younger. Porque me molesta is the word, is how we say annoy, he or she annoys me. We've got other words like me peleo or pelearse, to fight with, or pelearse con, to fight with. We've got divertirse, or for example, me divierto. I have fun with, almost. I enjoy, I have fun with. I could say someone judges me, me juzga, from the verb juzgar, me juzga. Okay, and that's some of the vocabulary there for family relations. Let's now talk about reflexive verbs. We've got lots of reflexive verbs, some that we've already seen. For example, llevarse, we've already seen today. We've seen casarse. We've seen pelearse, to fight with. We just saw that one. The other ones like preocuparse, preocuparse. A lot of daily routine verbs, like what you do in the morning when you get up and you get dressed, like vestirse, are also reflexive. So reflexive verbs end in the letters se. So either arse, erse, or irse. They're still going to be either ar, er, or ir verbs, but they're going to end in se. Let's talk about conjugating these verbs. I'm going to take the example of casarse, quite a good one to get married. So the verb casar exists on its own. Casar means to marry. So caso would be I marry. The job of the priest, for example, to marry people together, that would be I marry, using casar. But we're more likely going to try and say to get married, where we are part of the equation, we're trying to get married ourselves, we are getting married. That would be casar se. So caso is fine. I could say me caso. That's how we say I get married. So caso is I marry, but this me caso is saying almost I get married myself, or I marry myself. It's saying I get married. Te casas, you get married. It goes me, te, se, nos, os, se. So it's saying I, you, he or she, we, you guys, they. So for example, se casan, it has to match here. So because the se is saying the they form, casan is plural here, and this would mean they get married, almost to each other. And that's almost how easy reflexive verbs are. I could say me levanto, so I get up. For example, me levanto a las 6. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Is I get up. And make sure you go through times as well. So we'd say normally a las, for example, a las 3 is at 3 o'clock. Okay, what else do we have left? 2 things, possessive adjectives and ser versus estar. Let's go on to possessive adjectives and showing possession in Spanish. So how would I say, I've got a picture of a móvil here, a phone, mi móvil. How would I say my phone? I've said it there, mi móvil. So we've got mi. What about your phone? That becomes tu, his or her phone, su, our phone, nuestro. If it's a feminine noun, like mesa would be nuestra, vuestro, and vuestra, and then su. So I could say mi móvil or mi mesa, tu mesa, su mesa, nuestro móvil or nuestra mesa, depending on if it's a masculine noun or a feminine noun. If it's plural though, these change again. It would become mis, for example, mis hermanos. tus hermanos, nuestros, or nuestras hermanas or hermanos, depending again if it's masculine or feminine, vuestros or vuestras hermanas or hermanos, and again sus hermanos. So it depends on the noun, if it's plural or singular. If I give you a few nouns here, I could say ordenador, el ordenador. And we're sort of crossing over to the technology topic, but I could say mi ordenador, su ordenador, it's singular here. However, if I was to say, for example, sobrinos, do you remember that word from earlier? Is nephews, isn't it? Yes. Spelled like that, isn't it? So I could say maybe sus nephews. I could say, even if it's a single person like mi hermana, it's her nephews, sus sobrinos, sobrinas if it was nieces. We've got one other type of possession we should talk about. So if I was to say in English, we've got the words my and mine. We've covered the my, that's okay, but what about the mine? How would I say, the phone is mine? The phone is mine. Have a quick think about that sentence. El móvil, we've got that bit down. El móvil es mío. Es mío. We've got the words mío, tuyo, oops. Suyo is his or hers. Nuestro is the same as the other one. Vuestro and suyo again. So this is how we say the words mine. For example, it is mine, it is hers, it is ours. That's how we say that. Lastly, let's end this video off by talking about ser versus estar. Both of these verbs mean what? They both mean to be, but they've got different uses. Generally speaking, ser is for more permanent things and situations. So if why they're permanent, estar is for more temporary things that are more likely to change. I think I misspelled that, but you get the gist. I use the acronym, however, doc to place, to tell me when I'm going to use ser and when I'm going to use estar. So doctor and place. Hopefully some of you have seen this one before. If you've seen my video on ser versus estar, you would have come across this acronym before. The D is for description, so some sort of physical description. The O is for occupation. The C here is for characteristics, if I can spell that, characteristics. T is for time or date. O is for origin, and R is for relationship. So earlier, when we saw sort of phones and possession, we're going to use the verb ser. So I would say el móvil es mío, not está mío, because it's a relationship to an object, and we use ser for relationships. Place, location, action, condition, and emotion. So as you can see, things that are more likely to change, we use estar to describe. And I've got a whole separate video on ser versus estar, which I'll put on the screen. Just to quickly run through, so I can say soy, I am, eres, es, somos, sois, and son. And then for estar, I can say estoy, I am, estás, the accent, está with the accent again, estamos with no accent on the A this time, estáis with the accent on the A, and están, they are. And just to quickly note, you'll see they form always end with the letter N. So for example, hablan is they speak, even in the present tense, or in any tense. Hablan, they speak, son, they are, and están, they are, all end in that letter N. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Teachers can download a high quality and polished version of this document to print and use in class, for example, from astarlanguages.com/GCSE Spanish. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions. I will try and do a video just like this for all of the other topics for Edexcel and for AQA. Okay, subscribe for more videos, and adios.